It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm so hyped right now. Anything's possible. I'm my mama. I'm my lady, ma. Anything's possible.
Rain and J's back with the vengeance. All the real Celtics fans in attendance. This the truth like 34. This like walking in the garden when you hear the roars. The crowd goes crazy. Most in-depth coverage on the daily. Mainly podcast royalty, the content kings. When you talking about the franchise with 17 rings. Focus like Danny at the deadline. Global, but it got a local feel like the red line, the blue line, the green line. Play it in between time. I'ma throw my C's jersey on in the meantime and press play. When the F's done, I can't wait until the next day. Trying to stay in tune with the C's, that's the best way. Melly.
Hey there, welcome back to a bonus, some may call it an emergency podcast, after the Kemba Walker trade to Oklahoma City that returns Al Horford to Boston. Wow, right? Wow. So I want to thank you for all the people who demanded the bonus podcast. Here it is. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. And I'm here to talk about Kemba Walker being traded. And on top of that, other breaking news that Adrian Wojnarowski says the Boston Celtics are looking to get second interviews with Chauncey Billups, Ime Udoka, and Darvin Ham. Are those the only three finalists? I don't know, but that seems to be a significant part of this coaching search here. So right now, Boston Celtics look to be honing in on a coach. If you missed the first Friday podcast, the mailbag podcast, which a lot of it still stands, I did say that I've settled on Ime Udoka as I think the probably the best remaining candidate for the job. That I like what he's done with San Antonio. I like the fact that he's gotten exposure to how to handle stars in San Antonio and in Brooklyn. The fact that he's a defense first kind of guy. I think if he puts the right staff around him, he could be a very good coach. And I think also, and I didn't say this yesterday, but learning how to be a first-year coach from Steve Nash, like looking at the ways Steve Nash became a first-year head coach and walking into a situation where the team was ready to win and was demanding to win. I think that is a great experience for Udoka to have gone through and to have seen firsthand. So the more I think about it, the more Ime Udoka seems to be a really good fit for the Boston Celtics. I think if you're looking for a first-time head coach, he has a lot of the guidance that can kind of steer him towards that path. Almost look at it like bumper bowling, where he has those guides that'll keep him from failing, I think. So hopefully, obviously we don't know if he's going to fail or not or succeed or not. We don't know anything. We don't even know if he's going to be the guy. But he's one of the three candidates that is reported to have been in that second interview tier. So that's not what you're here for, though. You're here to hear Kemba Walker trade analysis and Kemba going to Oklahoma City along with this year's 2021 NBA draft 16th overall pick in exchange for Al Horford, Moses Brown, and they swap second rounders. Like Boston sends over a 2025 and they get back a 2023. So swapping second rounders and everything. So as I've said a few other places, I have to compartmentalize this and say that I look at it as Moses Brown for the first round pick. Like you draft Moses Brown with the 16th overall pick. Is he exactly what you would normally get for a first round pick? Would I have said originally trade the 16th overall pick for Moses Brown? Maybe not. Maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but if you look at it that way and say, still, and you draft a guy, you know you've got that year of NBA experience, you've seen it, what he can do. That's more than you can get out of anybody else that you draft. Then you say, all right, that's worth the 16th overall pick. Those are crapshoots anyway, a lot of times. 16th overall pick, those can be hit or miss. So you get Moses Brown out of that, which is good. 7'2", athletic, rim runner, obviously a great rebounder, all of that. Kemba for Al Horford is a money saver for sure. So at the beginning, at the outset, you say they save about $20 million over the course of 2 years, which is meaningful because it's not only $20 million, it's the luxury tax. You don't push 20 million deeper into the luxury tax, which means you don't pay that $20 million more tier. Or $9 million this year, $11 million next year. So this year, you don't push $9 million deeper into the luxury tax. And look, if the Celtics are 10 million over the tax this year, and it would have been 19, that would have been that's a meaningful savings. I mean, that could be about what's that, like $13-14 million on top of that. So 9 million plus you're ultimately saving in real dollars that you're not paying out as the ownership group. You're saving over $20 million just this year. And then if you get similar savings next year, it adds up. And the point is it adds up. So financially, that is meaningful to the Boston Celtics. From a player perspective, getting Al Horford in is good in that he's still good. He's still a good player. Is he overpaid for what he's going to give you as far as production on the floor? Yeah, but we're not thinking of it in that way. We're thinking of it in terms of he's going to be a mentor to Moses Brown and Robert Williams. Robert Williams loves Al Horford. Now, does this mean also that Robert Williams could be a trade chip? For sure. Someone in this front court has to go. Is it Tristan Thompson, who I don't think anybody outside of the locker room really likes? Is it Robert Williams, who may be seen as too injury prone to remain? Is it Al Horford, where the Celtics could continue to save even more money if they find someone to take him? That's the question. I can only go by what I've seen. It looks like Brad Stevens was welcoming Al Horford back, and they put out a statement that made it seem like, hey, welcome back to Boston. Looking forward to having you around. I think it's meaningful to have a guy in the locker room that's professional like him versus Tristan Thompson, who come out and say, the regular season is, horseshit. Like, that is not something that you want. That's not the message that you want in the locker room. It wasn't the message that Brad Stevens wanted in the locker room this past season. So if he has an opportunity to get Tristan Thompson out of here, then good. I think the Celtics can move on from Tristan Thompson very easily. He can go somewhere else, use him to bring in a reclamation project and see if you can maybe take a flyer on a guy with 1 year left on his contract, a guy that's fallen out of favor somewhere else, and see. Maybe you trade problems with another team. So somebody's out in that front court, and I don't think it's going to be Moses Brown because he's cheap. He's less than $2 million over each year for the next 3 seasons. So overall, it's a good trade. You save money. You bring in a professional mentor, a guy that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can look up to in the locker room, a person that you feel good about them looking up to in the locker room, a guy that can come in and give you good situational minutes. I don't know if he's going to be the starter or if he's going to be coming off the bench or what his role is actually going to be. We'll leave that up to the new coach to figure out what that rotation is going to be. But he could still have an impact on the floor. He still played pretty well when he was in Oklahoma City. Philly was not such a great fit. But Boston, and I don't think he can play on the floor with Robert Williams or anybody else. I think he'll have to come off the bench or start or however they use him. He's going to have to be the center. But I think he can do the job. And in 2 years, when his contract is up, that's cap space for that big summer of 2023 that I keep talking about, where the big free agent bonanza, I think teams around the league are going to be setting up for that. So what I did was I went onto Locker Room, or actually now it's called Spotify Green Room, and had an hour-long conversation with people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some of that here. I'll take out some of the repetitive stuff and kind of give you the highlights of that locker room session. And this way you can get a little bit more perspective, because I think some people had some good points to make in there as well. All of this is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. We can bet on who the next head coach is going to be at BetOnline, so you can go over there and see what odds are available. You can get all the odds, info on sports, whatever sports you want to follow, international sports, American sports, everything. So head on over there, use your mobile device, use your laptop, whatever. Sign up for free and use the promo code Locked On. That's going to get you a 50% welcome bonus. So whatever you do on your first deposit, you deposit $100, you'll get a $50 welcome bonus from BetOnline. So make sure you use that promo code Locked On. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in the game at BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Now, here is some of what my conversation was with fans on Locker Room. Let's start with Brady. I'm just going to keep going in order. Brady, you are up. What's going on, Brady?
How's it going, John? Good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts are I'm excited for Al to come back, and I feel like he could have a really good defensive presence and leadership, like you were kind of talking about. Like I remember back, maybe not to the full extent, but at least a lot of, what he was bringing back in 2016, 17, 18. But I feel like I want to get your thoughts on, obviously Brad's not done yet with moves. I imagine probably move Thompson, like you said, but well, what do you think the lineup construction looks like with Rob and Al now playing together?
Yeah.
Do you see Al playing more of a backup role, or do you see potentially them going back to a double big, but definitely a more versatile double big lineup?
Yeah, so I don't think they go double big, because the double big, when they had Al in Philly and Embiid was obviously your center, Al at the 4, I don't think that's the best place for him. And I don't think Robert Williams can go out there and play there, and I don't think Moses Brown can go out there and play there. So I think that Al is more of a situational, where maybe he earns a starting role but only plays 20 minutes, or maybe he comes off the bench, or maybe he does have some DNPs or whatever. But I don't think he's going to play the 4. I mean, he's 35 years old, and he's got that knee issue. You don't want him, especially with today's 4s. Like if this was 20 years ago, you'd say, okay, yeah, Al Horford as a 4, that works. But when you're going out there and guarding today's 4s, who are basically just taller, small forwards, I think that's you're asking too much of Al Horford. So my hope is that they still see Robert Williams as the starter, and they're just going to figure out who is best coming off the bench. Is Moses Brown ready to give them good bench minutes? Does he need more developmental time? I mean, he obviously, I think, proved that he's NBA ready in OKC, but also OKC was a different situation and, much more forgiving. He could play through mistakes. I don't know that whichever coach comes in, this isn't a team that is going to let you play through mistakes quite like Oklahoma City did. Like Oklahoma City probably wanted him to make a bunch of mistakes because it accomplished 2 goals for them. It let him get better and learn from those mistakes, but they also lost. They lost games, which is what they wanted to do. They weren't trying to win in Oklahoma City. So I think it's going to be a much different situation in Boston. So I think we're going to let that shake out. It's possible that Moses Brown goes to the G League and gets to just work on some minutes that way. And I don't know, but we'll see what happens in training camp. But I do. My hope is that Tristan Thompson gets traded and they do something, whether he gets traded into somebody's cap space or they trade him for a flyer on someone. That's what I'm hoping happens.
Yeah, and they'll create like $9 million, or they'll remove $9 million, right? If they trade him.
If they trade him, then they if they trade him for nothing, they create a $9 million traded player exception. So they can find it's easier to trade him for nothing and attach like a second round pick versus
a $7 million trade exception too, right? In this trade.
In this trade,
I think I saw something. Bobby Marks tweeted it out about how they created a $6.9 million trade exception.
Well, I didn't see that. I don't know how the Celtics could have done that.
Maybe it was the Thunder, but I don't know. But
the Thunder might have. The Thunder might have. I'm just gonna get a quick cruise here. Boston also created a $6.9 million trade exception. Celtics guaranteed $500,000. Interesting. Okay. Well, look, I don't know how Boston created a $6.9 million trade exception out of this, but they did apparently. That's news to me. I have to dig into that.
Yeah. I also got one more question.
Yeah.
Now that Kemba's gone, obviously, I can't imagine Pritchard's going to get 30-plus minutes next year. So what do you see potentially, the Celtics maybe want to do with the point guard spot? I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I expect Marcus Smart to stick around and be the starting point guard next season, which I like. I like Marcus Smart, especially now when you add Moses Brown. It's another guy that you run pick and roll with, and Marcus Smart is good at that. So as far as a backup, they might be looking for a backup point guard. I do think that it's a lot to ask of Peyton Pritchard, but he could slide into that. But I think you also want to find another guard with some size, because having Pritchard in there, he's good and he can shoot. I'm very curious to see what he comes back with, what new elements he comes back with in his game after an off season, after summer league, and after all of that. But he's still small, and he's still, he would still be targeted when he was out there. So I would like to see some size at the point guard somehow. And I don't know where they get it. They can scan the league and see if somebody fits into a traded player exception. But yeah, I think this is another reason why I think the Celtics clearly aren't done yet. All right, let's go back here and go to Cornell. Cornell, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, John? I like watching your show, man.
Thank you.
You be up at the wee hours of the morning doing the show, so I appreciate it.
I do. I'm up late most nights. That's just me, though. I like it.
Congratulations on your book, first off.
Thank you.
Yeah. I actually like the trade a lot. I like the Moses Brown because it's very underrated, and I think it's a money thing too. But I think having Al Horford back kind of has Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, gives them kind of like that guy they can go to, stuff's going on. Like what do we do? What do we do, Al? And so I think they didn't really have that. And I like Kemba Walker, but it's just we can't pay someone $37 million for 15 points, and can't really play back to backs. I hate that we gotta be. That's another player we had to trade, like that. But it is what it is.
Yep, it is what it is like the motto of running an NBA team. And look, I like Kemba. I thought Kemba was good. I think, but before the knee thing, obviously he was an all-star, and I thought he showed at the end of the regular season. He had the last 6 games. He had a 32-point game, 20-point game, 32, 33. He had that 18-point game against Miami, but then a 36-point game against Miami. So he showed that he still has something left. So I still think that Kemba is a good player. If he wasn't making the money that he was making, then it would have been a different story. But like you said, it is what it is. I think the locker room stuff, Danny Ainge really swung and missed on Tristan Thompson. He thought that bringing Tristan Thompson in was going to be a guy who knew what it was like to come back from down 3-1, right? The Celtics had just blown a series against the Miami Heat in the bubble. You bring in Tristan Thompson. Thompson knows what it's like to come back. He's going to be the type of leader that the Celtics want. He really emphasized that kind of Tristan knows that perseverance and all of that stuff. But really what they got in Tristan Thompson was a guy who kind of rode LeBron's coattails and saw, just like Kyrie saw, and that is why I wrote about this and I've talked about this a little bit. I really feel like those guys saw that you can coast in the regular season as long as you're ready for the playoffs. And that this past season, that was not the message that this Celtics team needed. And so I think Brad Stevens knows that firsthand. And that's why he brought in like the reaction. Everything's a reaction to something else. And the reaction to Tristan Thompson was, hey, we bringing Al Horford in and his professionalism, and that is more important. And so as much as they can get from Al on the court, they get more from Al being a mentor to Robert Williams and Moses Brown, and being in that locker room, being, professional, and a guy that can speak to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and hold some like authority. Like they know that he's the vet. He's the old head that's in the room now. That's the guy. That's the type of player that they've needed. We how many times have we talked about it? I'm sure you've probably talked about it with your friends. They need a vet. And Al Horford's is as good a vet as you can find.
Yeah. And his last thing, because I know everybody else, I got people want to talk. The thing with Brad Stevens that I want to say is people are like, oh, he has no GM skills, but the man went to Butler. So that's like being a GM. Like, you have all those personalities you have to check. And he got Butler to the NCAA twice. And I was watching something on YouTube earlier today with the other guys with John and them. And they made a good point about Kendrick Perkins. I don't know if it's Kendrick Perkins or them, but somebody made a good point of this is June already, and Brad's already making a move like this. It's like Brad Stevens is like, okay, now this is my turn. I'm about to you can see he's putting defense. He's trying to put defense back into this team. And I like that. Moses Brown killed us that game. I was like, who is it? I know he's the kid that had his chin down, who his teammate picked his head up, but I was like, this guy's killing us. And rebounding is something that's always killed Boston. And, it's like Brad got his shooting big back because Danny traded Tice, because Boston's been, Tice he was a good backup. But us missing that stretch big messed us up. So getting Horford back and getting a guy who can rebound back is like an insurance policy for Rob. I love Rob, but it's just the injury is just like daggone Boston can't get a break,
So good points there. The Brad Stevens, the player evaluation stuff, running a team that like at Butler in college, like you are running a team. And so that is something, even though we've seen Brad Stevens as the coach or as a coach for all of this time, part of his time, as a head coach in college does include team building. And so that is certainly something that he's going to lean on, a skill that he's going to lean on. Let's get to Emil.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for throwing this up so quick. I did cancel a conference call to come to this, even though I'm a couple minutes late. And this time I told them what I was doing. I'm like, if you guys want to continue to listen to me talk, you can meet me on the locker room app in John Karalis' room. So if they're here, what up, guys? So look, I mean, you and I went round and round on this all season, and I kept saying Kemba's got to go. And, it's not that I'm happy to see him gone, but the thing that, I think matters the most here is Kemba got a max contract in the Celtics. Can't complain about that. And it's not that he's trash. It's just that he doesn't fit next to the Celtics. And all those games that you talked about where he put up all those points, Celtics lost a bunch of those games. So, hopefully this is a good situation for him. I wish him well. He's a good dude. He didn't do anything here to create a problem other than be hurt and not fit. So, for all the fans that are like, hey, don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's like, don't look at the guy like that. He's a good human being. So, as far as coming back our way, in my mind, getting Moses Brown is an insurance policy on Rob, because his entire left side of his body seems to turn into a cadaver halfway through the season. And look, 6'9" dudes with that kind of bounce, like there are mechanics things that give him the bounce, and there are mechanic things that hurt the body. So hopefully they can figure that stuff out for him this year. But the Moses Brown thing, I think that's great. I'm really looking forward to that. I'd rather have him than Luke Cornett. And if that ends up becoming, another three-headed monster here, there's other dominoes clearly that are coming. Guys like Taco, you gotta questions. It's like, okay, how many of these development centers can we carry on a roster at the same time? So,
Sure.
yeah, as far as Al coming back, it's ball movement, and I think it's fit. Like if you look at the power forwards, and the thing is that Al's probably gonna have to play the five, right? Unless they're because I don't know how they would play Rob and Al at the same time.
No, I don't think they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, Al Horford being on the floor, like the ball movement point is a really great point because that's something that he knows that whole, what it takes to spring guys open. And look, they've worked together before. Like he's worked those high dribble handoffs and pick and rolls and stuff with Tatum before. He can work them with Brown. Like he understands and he's willing to do the things that it takes to move the ball. It's passing that like now if you look at the team with your three best passers are your point guard and two of your centers. Like that's what the Celtics have right now. And frankly, in today's NBA with the ball movement, that's kind of what you need. We always talk about good passing, good shooting bigs. Good passing bigs are just as important because you're running those high dribble handoffs. You need guys who understand what the defense is doing, when to fake those, when guys are cutting, guys who understand the timing of the plays and who can make those passes from the high post. And that is what encourages guys to move. Like when Jaylen Brown is standing in the corner, why cut if the guy with the ball is not going to give you the pass? Why am I going to expend the energy cutting if I'm not going to get the ball? But with Al and with Rob, yeah, right. With Al and Rob, it's like once I see a defender turn his head, I can cut, and I know they're going to find me and get an easy layup. Like that is really, really important.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Al come back. I don't know. I'm not too worried about that 14.9 guaranteed versus 25 guaranteed or whatever it is. I think if he has a great season this year, they'll say to him, "Hey, look, we'll give you another couple seasons or whatever it is," and figure it out from there. As far as what it cost us, I'm not happy about paying Portland to take Enes Kanter last year, and we had to give up the 30th pick, whatever it was, and ended up becoming Desmond Bain. It was Desmond Bain. That was unfortunate, right? Like I'm not very pleased with that. And then to see what we ended up getting as returns from the guys that we replaced Kanter with, it was like you're better off just keeping the guy. And then when you look at now, we're giving up the 16th pick. I'm not happy about that either. However, that probably gives a vote of confidence to both Neesmith and Langford to stay on the roster for another season. That's how I look at it, is they've now afforded a roster spot to not feel forced to get rid of one of those guys because they got a mid first round pick coming on. What do you think?
I think that's a good point. It's a fair way to look at it. I've been looking at it as they've used the 16th pick to draft Moses Brown. Like that, to me, you compartmentalize the trade into two separate things. Kemba swapping with Al Horford, and with the 16th pick, the Celtics select Moses Brown from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that to me makes it fine. Now, is that the type of player you would normally pick 16th? Maybe not. Maybe you'd wait a little bit longer in the draft, but considering that you know him, he's got a year of NBA play under his belt, you have a good idea. It elevates his value, right? Because when you make a draft pick, it's a crapshoot once you get out of the lottery, and even towards the end of the lottery, it's a crapshoot. And so with the 16th pick, you could have picked somebody with promise, and you just don't know how he would develop. At least with Moses Brown, you have a year of NBA play, and you say, okay, I can see how he is. I can see how he goes, all of that stuff. So that makes it much more palatable for me. I don't look at it as the Celtics attached a first to get off of Kemba's contract. I think it makes it easier. It doesn't make my brain explode quite like that when I consider it the way I'm selling it. So But I understand. Look. Whenever you attach draft assets to get off of contracts, it's not great, right? And the whole Enes Kanter thing is yeah. You look at what those assets become, and you say, oh God, why couldn't we have gotten that? But some of it is the cost of doing business.
And then just lastly, and I'll jump off, the $6.9 million. So Oklahoma City was under the cap by trading Kemba to them and taking Horford back with the Moses Brown. That's what the $6.9 million delta is. That's how we got the trade exception.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
All right. So thanks for having me on, John. You have a good weekend, man.
You got it. See ya. So when I woke up, as I forget who it was that was on mentioned before, that I'm up late. I am up late. Like I normally I'll watch the games, even though I was doing a mailbag podcast last night. I still like when the game is over and the podcast is over. That's my time to chill. That's my work day is done. And I stay up till about 2:30 in the morning. That's normal for me. My alarm goes off at 10:30 in the morning. I wake up to a text from my boss. I wake up to tweets. John, wake up. This is the second time in a month that people are tweeting at me. John, wake up. What do you think? But I woke up and I was like, huh? What do you mean the news? What? And so I had to scroll as I'm making my coffee. Oh, okay. Kemba was okay. It took me I had to process everything for half an hour or so before I start writing my analysis for Boston Sports Journal. So this whole traded player exception thing was new. I didn't think that they created any sort of exception, but apparently they did. So that's good. So it's another tool. Hey, 6.9 million. It might expire. This is one of those where they didn't specifically do this to create the exception. So that's one that might expire. But look, you got it, and you never know when you might use it. Having an extra tool like that in the box is never a bad thing. So I'll go to Patrick, who I believe was trying to get on earlier and then dropped off. But Patrick, you're back.
No, it said I couldn't ask him. That was weird. That trade was it was good, man. I actually liked it a lot. I thought that Brad Stevens doing it early on may have been a little off guard for a lot of people, but in my mind, I'm trying to see where he's coming from. And my sense is you haven't picked your coach yet, but you're building that team. Maybe it's also more enticing in that sense, and also it allows you to get an idea of that team that you have, and they can kind of get together sooner. I know Horford already has experience with some of the guys on the roster, but say Moses Brown now, he gets to come over to the Celtics facility even sooner before the draft. I feel like later on down the line in trades, you just the chemistry becomes harder to mesh with people. So getting a faster jump on things, and then also it's a clear indication going early into the offseason with these trades that Brad Stevens has a grand scheme of things that he needs to do. And it's just showing that he understands that, and he's not going to just sit on his hands and try to figure out this GM thing. And he's just going to go out there and start throwing things out and trying to get shit done in a sense. And I like exactly what we got. Moses Brown, getting Moses Brown actually almost makes me think that if the right trade comes available, depending on what it's for and everything, that Robert Williams might be on the block, because Brad Stevens might not want to deal with the injuries or the limited minutes anymore. That might just be a thing he has. And I also see the direction that Stevens is going in, I feel, is going to be more on a veteranship side than a youth side. That's why I think they obviously need to use the pick to get rid of Kemba's contract. But the thing is he was a coach for so long, and coaches want the veteranship to be able to win now, whereas Danny Ainge was a GM for so long. He wants to constantly get that young youth going and always have security as far as competitiveness for the future. And I think Brad Stevens being a new GM, he's having that veteranship look and is trying to look at this window of Tatum and be more aggressive. So I'm really, really excited about that. So
yeah, the Robert Williams potential for a trade, it did cross my mind because we'll see that is a certain possibility here, that the Celtics may think that look, the injury risk is too great. The risk for re-injury is too great. We're never going to get a full 35 minutes out of him. And so maybe now, while his value is still pretty high, or maybe his value is going to be as high as it's ever going to be right now, maybe now's the time that you move him. That is 100% possible. The thing that keeps me from really buying into that is that Robert Williams is such a good passer, and I think you lose that with Moses Brown, and I just don't think that Al Horford is here long term. Like, his contract is up after 2 seasons, and I don't think they're bringing him back because he'll be 37 at that point. Like, that's it. He's done.
Yeah.
That's a big summer. Now, hell, maybe that summer they get Nikola Jokic in some kind of wild free agent frenzy like that. Then everything changes, right? But hey, I don't know that that Robert Williams is going to be on the move, but somebody has to move, right? Tristan Thompson, Al Horford, Robert Williams.
Out the door. That's his contract, right? That one.
I think so.
That deal, expiring deal.
It's very obvious that there are probably 3 or 4 moves that are coming. You have to move one of the bigs. You have to get some size in the backcourt. You have to bolster the bench. And what the next move is dictates what 2 moves from now are going to be. So there's a lot that's happening that it requires, like, if you move Tristan Thompson, great. What are you moving him for? Is it cap space? Okay, fine. Then you can kind of look towards the next move and see, or I'm not cap space, but money savings.
Sounds like we need like an investigation billboard of just like a pinpoint red dot here on this pitcher, this player, this situation, this situation.
For any,
eliminate them as they can't come anymore.
Right. For any Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans, I'm Charlie with the Pepe Sylvia scene, and you got all the things going on. I mean, I'm like going crazy, like hallucinating and smoking cigarettes, chain smoking. Like that's where I'm thinking like what the next move is going to be. Mendy, my man, Mendy wouldn't be a show or a green room, I guess. I keep wanting to call it a locker room without Mendy in the house.
John, how you doing? Dude, I'm feeling awesome. My birthday is in 3 days, bro.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's officially been 1 week since I quit smoking too. So it's a big day for that too.
Oh,
so
good.
It's like, dude, what a day today. I mean, this Twitter is going wild. I'm about how the Celtics got ripped off, yada, yada, yada. I wish what the Celtics would have done was make it 2 different deals. You go and you trade Kemba for Al, and then you go and trade the first round pick for Moses Brown. I think people don't realize how good Moses Brown is. You know, he played 12 games this year when he played at least 30 minutes. He averages 16 rebounds a game when he plays 30 minutes a game. This guy is a rebound machine. Okay, he's a monster in the paint, which is, what did I say when Brad Stevens got hired? The first thing I said was people don't want to hear it, right? But I don't know how much Brad likes Robert Williams. I said it as soon as he got hired. I told it to you, John. I think that Robert Williams is going to get dealt. And I think that this move makes him a lot closer to be getting dealt. I don't think that Brad wants to give him that type of money, which he's going to get. I don't think that Brad thinks that he is worth the risk. But in my eyes, right, it's like, okay, so what possible trade now can they make for Robert Williams? So I'm thinking you call up the Pacers, okay? The Pacers are a wreck right now. Let's be honest. They're a wreck. You give them Robert Williams, Aaron Nesmith, Marcus Smart, and 2 first-round picks, and you and maybe Tristan Thompson to make the salaries work and everything like that. I'm not sure about the salaries and everything like that, but you get back DeMontis Sabonis and maybe Aaron Holiday type of trade, because now if because the Celtics need a point guard right now, because I love Marcus Smart, right? Unless you maybe find a way to get Malcolm Brogdon in the deal, I don't know. But like the Celtics need a starting point guard. This is a guard driven league. Let's be honest, right? So
I think
with
Marcus
no
Smart
first
would
round
be
pick,
the
with
starting
not a
point
lot
guard.
of salary cap, I don't think he's good enough to be. I'm sorry. I just don't think he is.
Well, I think that Marcus Smart is a good starting point guard. Like, I think he's good enough to be your starting point guard. And you're right, it's a guard-driven league. But the Celtics will have Marcus Smart, they'll have Tatum, they'll have Brown. Their perimeter is kind of set. You could slide Fournier in there as a 2-3 if he resigns, and go with, you know, Fournier and Tatum and Brown and Smart, like, and then you go Rob or whomever, however that shakes out. But
Fournier's going to get paid. Do you want to give him
I
4
don't
years,
know what
$80 million?
I don't know. Well, I'm not going to give him 4 years. The Celtics aren't going to give him 4 years. They're going to give him 2 years so they can be players in that 2023 free agency. So it's not going to be 4 years. It's going to be 2 years. And if they give him 2 years and 37, 38 million, like, you know, that, will that do the trick? Will he take that? He could get paid. He could go somewhere else. And maybe the Celtics work a sign and trade to make that happen. I don't know how that's going to work out. The Knicks could certainly swoop in and give him a big 1 year contract. That's a possibility. But I'm not making a priority to, like, when you say trade Marcus Smart and Aaron Nesmith and picks for what? For Domantas Sabonis and
Malcolm Brogdon.
And Malcolm Brogdon? I don't think that's – I don't know why the Pacers, first of all, would do that. Sabonis is like the centerpiece of what they're trying to do. They're a mess, but I think, you know, that's why they made their coaching change. I don't think that's the direction that the Celtics want to go here. I think the direction the Celtics are going is Marcus Smart as your starting point guard. And now, like you said, yes, you have Nesmith and Romeo. Like those guys can we'll see what they come back like. Like we have to wait, unfortunately, to see what their development is. That's the unfortunate side effect of all of this. A lot of what the Celtics are doing right now requires waiting.
Wait and see, yeah.
You know, and with Romeo, with Nesmith, with Pritchard, Grant Williams, those guys are very wait and see. Robert Williams is a wait and see kind of guy, mostly to see if he can stay healthy. The Celtics have now picked up some insurance on that, and they've picked up guys that can maybe be part of the solution here. But I don't think there's a big swing involving Marcus Smart that doesn't, like, if they move Marcus Smart and do Smart and picks and Nesmith and whatever, that better get you more than Sabonis and Brogdon. That better get you Bradley Beal. That better get you something. Like, you've got to go get
that's not going to be nowhere enough for Beal. Because if you want Beal, right, you're going to have to add Jaylen Brown too, probay, right? And then at that point, it doesn't make sense to get Bradley Beal.
No, I'm not moving Jaylen Brown. Like, I'm not.
I
doing
100% agree with you. No. I'm just saying what it's going to take, which is why I don't think Bradley Beal is going to be a Celtic. But if there's one thing that Brad showed with this deal, is that he's not like Danny Ainge, where he's not, where if it makes the team better, he's going to trade draft picks, and that makes me so much happier, John. You have no idea. Although I do have a question. Do you see him trading? I don't know who. I want to say Marcus Smart, but you seem like a very big Marcus Smart defender. But do you see him trading a Smart type of player for a draft pick in this year's draft, like a top 10 pick?
Well, no, I don't. First of all, I don't think that that's something that they're looking to do. I also don't think that's something that any other team is going to do. Like, you get a top 10 pick in this draft, you're getting yourself a potential like game-changing player. So I don't think Marcus Smart alone is going to get you into that that spot. So it's Marcus Smart, or like there's no one you can trade to. No one on the Celtics that you can trade and say we'll take a top 10 pick in this draft. Like, no, that's not happening. Teams are desperate to trade into this draft. Let's get Ben back up here.
What's up,
Ben?
John?
What's going on? I can hear you this time. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I don't know what was happening. My app was bugging, I think. Initial thoughts. I'm in love with this trade just because I love Horford. He was my favorite player of the team before he left. So obviously, money-wise, it helps because I guess I just want to clarify. So we got a $7 million player exception, and then we saved like $23 million because he's only getting $14 million in 2022, I think, Horford.
Well, it's $14 million is what's guaranteed in 2022.
Okay.
But that's something that I'm not too focused on that because I think if the Celtics trade him, cut him, and just to save that money, then that makes this trade a little bit of a disaster. They didn't get him so they could cut him.
Oh no, that would be all. Yeah, no, I don't. That would be that would suck. I wanted to hear your thoughts on what you think they'll do next in terms of do you think Thompson's out for sure? I mean, I think he's probably out. And do you think that they're going to do anything in regards to Smart and Williams, or do you think both those guys come back next year?
I may be more hopeful when I say that Tristan Thompson seems like the guy that's going to be out. I just don't think that he fit here.
He doesn't fit at all.
I think that was I understand what Danny Ainge was trying to do. It didn't work. All right. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you play the game, you make a bet, and you lose the hand. So this past off season was just as the season wore on, it just became more and more of a disaster for Danny Ainge. And so I think, and I said this at the top, I think if you can try to find a taker for Tristan Thompson and you go for it, and if you can use Tristan Thompson to bring back a reclamation type project, then go for it. And the name that I've been fixated on, I don't know why, it's Juancho Hernan Gomez in Minnesota, who makes $7 million. He's on the books for one more season.
He can shoot the ball. Yeah,
he can shoot the ball. He had kind of a disaster of a season last year. And if he can, you move him for Tristan Thompson, you say, Minnesota, look, here's a guy that can go in there and bang.
Maybe
give it a shot.
Maybe teach Towns to be a little bit better on defense.
Sure, you add some toughness and all of that stuff. Blah 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 blah. You bring in Hernan Gomez, and you say let's see if he can recapture some of that shooting prowess that he had shown before. Now that $7.5 million. That's non-guaranteed next season. So you got him on the books for $7 million. So you save a couple, like $2.5 million this year, which if you're trying to save tax money, that's meaningful.
Yep.
You got a guy that you say, all right, let's see if you can find your shooting touch. If not, fine, bench him. It doesn't mean anything. You bench him, you trade him as, maybe you use him as, you throw him into a trade at the deadline. You say his salary next year is not guaranteed, so the other team's just going to cut him. You throw the other team some cash to kind of compensate for that. Boom, done. It's a very easy reclamation project. And if the Celtics are trying to, basically, I see them as trying to shop at the clearance rack at an outlet store. This is the type of player you go for. All right, let's go. I got a couple more here. No Cap, what's going on?
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So I want to say I think they should trade Time Lord. I feel like Time Lord is a ticking time bomb, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's a Marvin Bagley 2.0. I feel like you should trade him now while his value is high, maybe for a guy like Christian Wood.
Well, okay.
Go ahead.
I'll stop you there because Christian Wood is not getting traded. The Houston Rockets would be insane to trade Christian Wood. Now, Christian Wood is a free agent in the summer of 2023, and I think the Celtics should be focused on maybe trying to sign him when he's a free agent. If they don't get one of the top free agents in 2023, or hell, Christian Wood might become one of the top free agents in 2023. But I think that he is one of the guys that, like, Houston's still going to be a mess in 2 years. Like, I don't see them turning anything around. I can see him saying, like, hey, thanks for the money, but I got to go win games. So I understand looking at Christian Wood. I understand the desire. I just don't see them trading him. But I will say that trading Robert Williams is certainly a possibility in this. It would be one hell of a shocking possibility, but sure, it's a possibility. So sorry, I had to stop you there because a lot of people bring up Christian Wood.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about like for backup point guard, maybe a guy you could bring in on a 1-year deal, like a Patty Mills, Derrick Rose, or maybe a TJ McConnell?
Yeah, guys like that. I think Rose will probably stay in New York. That's a situation that is good for him. He wants to play with Tibbs. But yeah, any of those guys make sense. Got to remember though, the Celtics are limited in how much money they have to spend. So whatever names we want to throw out there as backups, they have to be willing to take about $5.9 million or so or less. So 2-year, $12 million type of contract. I don't think they're going to go 3-year because they're going to prioritize that cap space. But 2 years, $12 million type of deal. That's the taxpayer mid-level. They're not, so they don't hard cap themselves, because if they hard cap themselves, they're screwed. So that, just keep that in mind when you're digging through your backup point guards and guys that you can sign. That's the limitation.
Okay. What do you think about? Oh yeah. So Taco, Tremont, and Carson, I will all let walk.
Yes.
And Tristan Thompson and Smart, I would also trade this summer.
Yeah, I'm higher. First of all, Taco and Tremont are on 2-way contracts, and you can only sign those guys twice. So they're either sticking around on guaranteed deals or they're out. And I'd say they're both out. Carson Edwards for sure can move. Tristan Thompson for sure can move. I'm higher on Marcus Smart than a lot of people. Or I don't know about a lot of people, but there are a lot of people who suggest these Marcus Smart trades. I think his value to this team is still pretty high despite the shooting issues. I think with a full roster and a consistent role as the starting point guard, I think he'll be very, very good. I just think that he's really solid and he sets a tone defensively, and the guys listen to him. So I'm not opposed to moving Marcus Smart, but I'm also not just willing to move Marcus Smart for like a lateral move either. Like I'll use Marcus Smart in a bigger trade. And this is the other thing you have to consider, is that the Celtics don't have any other guys that make that mid-level money, that 13.5. Like, if you're looking to make a trade at the deadline, okay, and if you're thinking, hey, maybe Damian Lillard's available, maybe Bradley Beal's available, one of those guys, you want to keep in mind that you're always looking for that next big home run swing as a GM. That Marcus Smart salary, regardless of what you think of him as a player, you need that salary to make the deal work. Because if you're attaching, let's say Aaron Nesmith is valuable enough and they accept him, and Romeo Langford and Grant Williams, those guys all make like $3.5 million. And you got to match a salary. You got to match the salary of the guy you're trading for. You need that $13.5 million to make things work, because otherwise you're just trading away 6 guys to try to make the salary work. You can't do that to your own bench. The other team's got to have enough roster spots to take in those guys. It just makes the financials difficult. So besides me saying I don't want to trade Marcus Smart unless it's somebody to bring in somebody that's a bigger name, if you trade Marcus Smart for 1 or 2 guys, you're taking away that contract that you need to make a bigger deal work down the road. So it just makes it less likely that Marcus Smart's going to move in one of these smaller deals.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. And I do those once a week, every Friday. It's kind of good that this happened on a Friday. I didn't know what I was going to write about or talk about there, but we got a nice topic there now. So Kemba Walker is a member of the Thunder for now. And just my final thoughts on that. I think the Thunder are going to move him. I'm really curious to see what Sam Presti does, because I think it's possible that he can get something for Kemba. And I think it's possible that he can trade Kemba back into the Eastern Conference and get a deal, a return for him that maybe the Celtics couldn't have, or that maybe he can get a deal that we look at and say, hey, why couldn't Brad Stevens pull this off? Like, what's this? So Brad pulls off his first big deal as president of basketball operations, and it's a good one. And as I've been saying, this is the first of a few, because even though he's not going to have a draft pick unless he trades for one, this is going to be a very busy next few months. And there are very obvious holes in this Celtics roster that he's going to need to fill. Backup point guard, some more scoring off the bench. What are we going to do about maybe a stretch shooting type of big, a 4 that can shoot? So there's lots to do. Brad Stevens off to a running start. We'll see where he goes. So thanks for checking out this bonus episode of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Subscribe if you're a new listener. If you're new to the YouTube page, please subscribe to that. Rate it, comment below, all of that stuff. And share it. Share it with your friends, with everybody. Tell them they should be listening to the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network.